Hi everyone. Hello.
Hi,
Hey Vlad, how are you?
I'm very, very good. How are you, Jasmine?
Good.
Nice.
Welcome to Chutzpah Time, Vlad.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be on Chutzpah Time.
How are you, Jacqui?
I'm great. I'm excited.
All right, sweet. So, today we're going to talk about being an immigrant. So, it's all about the U.S. Part 2, being an immigrant. And this is the month of July. We're doing a special series called All About the U.S. It's 4 parts, and we will dive in and go deep on social, historical, and political aspects in the United States. We have several amazing guests joining us throughout the series, each bringing their own expertise and experience to the topic. And of course, it wouldn't be chutzpah time without our own input.
You know it.
So we hope you enjoy as we explore these hot topics. So, kicking it off, basically, I wanted to first of all define immigrant. And so the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country is what an immigrant means.
That's good to know.
And we all immigrated from Israel to the U.S. Jacqui, do you feel like an immigrant?
So this is really weird because when I grew up, my mom, obviously our mom is American. So I grew up in Israel feeling like I am partially don't belong because my mom was American. She didn't go to the military. She had no history in Israel. None of her bringing up was in Israel. Obviously, she's American. So I always felt like I was American while living in Israel. Then we moved to America. And I discovered that I am way more Israeli than I thought.
That's crazy.
So it's really weird because I feel like, in a way, I didn't fit in the country that I am from, or I didn't think I belonged, and then I moved somewhere else and felt like wow, I belong way more than I thought I did where I grew up.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily feel like an immigrant the way that we are taught being an immigrant is, if that makes sense. But I do feel like I'm a minority because I'm Jewish, and for the first time I'm in a non-Jewish country, and I didn't think it would make a difference, but it does. So, there's no straight answer, I guess, but yeah, I don't know.
It's different. It's like being American and going to India where Christianity is like not a big deal. So, but while you were talking, I was thinking it's probably what you feel is being a first generation because our mom was an immigrant in Israel.
Yeah.
And we were, in a way, first generation.
Yeah.
And I think it sounded like that's how a lot of first generation people feel like.
Yeah, the first generation to be born in the country their parents immigrated to. Yeah, it's a different experience than being the first generation and then immigrating. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How about you? Do you feel like an immigrant?
I feel like an immigrant in the world. So, like...
You're an alien.
Yeah.
Which is the word we're going to get into for an immigrant in America.
Shortly. Or not so shortly. So, Vlad, you actually immigrated twice,
Yeah,
which
right.
is insane.
Yeah.
Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So my parents emigrated from what used to be the Soviet Union, but ceased to be Soviet Union at about 1991. And shortly afterwards, people could leave for the first time in a very, very long time.
Wow.
In decades, people could leave. And they chose to come to Israel. They had a couple of choices, and they chose to come to Israel. And we came about 91. And we settled down in Ramat Gan, which is next to Tel Aviv, which is pretty much the center. It's next to the city center. It's just Ramat Gan is a little bit of more of a suburb where families live.
Yeah.
And and
How old were you?
I was 6.
6 when you moved from Ukraine to Israel?
Yeah, I was 6, and then I lived there until
No, you were 5.
maybe 5.
You were born in 86, right?
Right.
You moved 91.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were 5.
91, 92. Yeah, I don't remember. I actually don't remember the exact dates.
Wow.
Yeah. But we moved. Moved to a kibbutz in the beginning, and then moved
Oh, wow.
to Moshav, which is almost similar to a kibbutz, and then we moved to Ramat Gan. But it was just 2 years of moving around, and then we settled in Ramat Gan.
Wow.
And then I lived there for a very long time until recently, 5 years ago, when we all immigrated to the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why did your family immigrate to Israel?
Tough
It's
question.
a great question. And in the Soviet Union, during the Soviet Union times and afterwards as well, Russia and Ukraine, in particular Ukraine, was a very, very difficult place to live in. Not a lot of opportunities. A lot of problems with society, like alcoholism, which is really bad. People don't know how bad it is. People know because there's a stigma and jokes,
Yeah.
but it's real bad to the point where men don't really work; they just drink, and it's like a real plague. It's like a real problem
Yeah.
in society,
Wow.
and everybody's poor, and you can't make money because everything. The country really turned around from being communist,
Yeah.
like wanting to be like North Korea, into being capitalist overnight. And when something like this happens, a country can really everything can lose its balance.
Yeah, for sure.
So wages are low, food is like you can't buy food. It was a really difficult time.
So why did they choose Israel? You said they had a few options.
I think my parents they felt close to Judaism because I'm half Jewish. I'm technically, funny enough, I'm half Jewish and half Christian. By Christianity I'm Jewish, and by Judaism I'm Christian.
Yeah.
So I'm,
You're on the wrong side of things.
right, exactly, because it goes by the mother and by the father.
Yeah.
Judaism is by the mother, Christianity by the father.
Yeah, your mom is Christian, your dad is Jewish.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you're like not accepted by, yeah, it's weird.
So exactly.
Inception.
That's true. And they felt, my father, I think my mother, they felt connected to the Jewish in them.
Yeah.
And wanted to live among people like them. And my father was bullied when he was a kid because he was Jewish. So he was
Oh.
heavily bullied in school. Ukraine is known to be a very anti-Semitic country. It's
Yeah.
very anti-Semitic. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of Jews there, and it's very anti-Semitic. So
That's great.
yeah, yeah,
Sarcasm.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's what they chose. That's why they wanted a warmer climate and being close to people like them, Jewish people.
Just out of curiosity, what were the other options?
I don't really know.
Because
But I know that a lot of people that immigrated during that time, they ended up in Canada, they ended up in the United States, and they ended up in Germany.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of them, like 50, more than 50%. Around the time that we immigrated, 1 million other people immigrated to Israel.
Yeah.
Israel, mind you, was a country of 7 million people at the time.
Yeah.
Became 8.
Yeah.
So it was a huge migration.
It was crazy. In early
Huge.
90s, 1 million
Yeah, 1
people
million
from
people.
the ex-Soviet Union moved to Israel, which, like
Yeah.
Vlad said, is a 7 at the time was 7 million people. So
Became 8.
it's, yeah,
Huge influx of people.
yeah.
And the majority of those people didn't even immigrate to Israel. The majority of people that ended up immigrating at the time, they immigrated to Canada, United States, and Germany.
Yeah, I wonder how many people left the like Soviet Union in total. Like how many? It's probably like millions and millions of
Yeah, I don't think they talk about those numbers. I don't think, even though it's ex-Soviet Union, I think they still have their pride
people. Yeah.
of not disclosing how many people left.
Wow.
For sure. And how did it affect you at the young age that you were in, like as a young person, not really knowing where you're going and like, you know what I mean?
So when we moved, I've experienced something that's very common with children below the age of 7, under the age of 7. They forget everything. So there's so much trauma, there's so much change that they don't remember what happened.
Wow.
They don't remember. So I actually don't remember
Wow.
nothing. I don't remember anything from the old country. I don't remember anything from the old country. I don't remember nothing from moving. I only remember that I was given a toy plane and we landed it was on the plane. There was like a
So
little
that's your first
cute
memory?
thing for children. Yeah, given like a toy plane and like landing.
Oh, a toy plane.
Yeah.
On the plane.
Yeah. That's what I
Whoa.
remember. I don't remember anything else.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and my parents, they looked it up a lot after we moved because they couldn't understand why I don't remember anything.
Oh,
And they looked
so
it up and they found
noticed.
out. Yeah, and they found out why.
Why?
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
What-
there's trauma,
Too
like
much.
psychological.
Too much, yeah. You
Yeah.
cannot handle what's happening, so you just don't remember what happened.
And just to mention,
Yeah.
you didn't speak Hebrew.
Of course, no, I didn't.
So how was that?
Because I never went to kindergarten because they didn't want to send me back in Ukraine. They didn't want to send me in Kiev. It was in Kiev because it was bad and it was very.
So you were homeschooled
Sort of,
for
yeah.
the first
Yes.
while you were in Ukraine.
And then when we moved to a kibbutz and then to a moshav, and then there were those two systems, and that's a talk for another day. That's a story for another day. What is a kibbutz? What is a moshav in Israel?
Yeah.
So those are very special, kind of like ways to live.
Right.
But they didn't send me either
So
to
did
kindergarten.
you
So
go
I never went to
to-
kindergarten.
Did you go to Ulpan? Because that's where people usually learn Hebrew
They didn't
in Israel.
know. No.
No.
I don't remember. I was very sick also when I arrived.
Yeah, you got all the Israeli germs, new
Yeah.
germs.
I got very sick and I was also screened a couple of times for radiation because when I was born, the year I was born, there were a couple of months after I was born, there was the biggest nuclear disaster in the history of the world.
Chernobyl, yeah.
Yeah, Chernobyl.
Wow.
And I didn't have anything related to that, but I got very sick so no, I was never,
Wow.
I never went to. So I learned just from playing with other kids.
Wow, that's tough. That's a lot to go through as a
Yeah.
young child.
Yeah, I
That's
think-
a fascinating story that I did not know about you, and literally I know you for like 11 years.
Right. You never knew, yeah.
So, wow, I'm like blown away right
There
now,
you go.
by the
Yeah.
way. And on that note, we're gonna take a quick break so I
Yeah.
can digest this information.
Awesome.
We'll be back with Vlad.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're back.
Hi.
Hello.
So Vlad, how was it to grow up in Israel as an immigrant?
Wow, we were just diving right in.
Yeah. So, as a kid, I had a pretty tough time because there was a lot of stigma and racism and like a lot of bullying.
Wow.
And I think in many countries, when you're not from there and you're an immigrant, especially as a kid, the other kids poke fun at you for that, and they have all kinds of things that they say.
Yeah.
So it starts at education, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the teachers weren't helping either, I think.
That's shitty.
But it became a little bit better when I grew up and became an adult. After I was like 17, 18, it became much better. I had friends, and I had friends in elementary school too, but I had more friends later. And when you're an adult, it's really funny how kids can be very mean to each other, but as adults, we're all so respectful towards each other, and we're like, we have codes of behavior. We're like, respect each other no matter who's from where.
Yeah. You hope so, at least.
You hope so, and that's how it should be. But as kids, they're so relentless. Oh my God, kids are so mean to each other over the littlest things. So definitely tough. But as I grew up, it was better. But I would say, just in general, in Israel, I felt there is a lot of. It's not a very welcoming country towards people that are not born there, and in America, I feel like it's much more welcoming.
Yeah.
You would think it would be different, given like the history of Israel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right, you would. I agree. That's true.
Yeah. Now, before you moved to the U.S., what did you expect?
I was terrified of moving in general. I've been to Europe prior, so I knew what to expect, but we were not moving to Europe. We were moving to the United States of America, which I've never been to, and I was terrified. I didn't know what to think. A lot of the things that people think about Americans outside of the U.S. are not. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative, but I would say they're more characteristic, you could say. Everybody has guns, everybody's loud. It's hard to explain, but there is more of I think like every people think about other people. They always use like like a caricature of who the other people are.
Yeah.
So we always think, Indian people make curry, Russian people drink, I don't know, Chinese, like Asian people, they're good in school, so everybody has like a stigma, and the stigma towards Americans, I found out when I moved to America, is completely incorrect. Is of course you would find out the stigma is incorrect, and what everybody, that's pretty obvious, but
maybe not in every case.
Not in every case, no.
Yeah.
And what's funny, it brings me back to what we were talking about before. In Israel, there used to be, and I think it's still the way it is, if you're an immigrant, let's say from Ukraine, well, you were treated, at least in my time, in a certain way. But if you're from America, this is the good kind of immigrants. Everybody wants American immigrants in their country. So it's very interesting how everybody's like, oh, the Americans, they're so weird. They have guns and cars, and they're so spoiled. Yeah, they're like so spoiled, and like they shop all the time, and they're like weird. They're like everybody thinks that Americans are shallow.
Yeah.
And they only talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think that's true. And
it's not the whole picture. I mean, we talk a lot about being Israeli to Sam. So
but everybody thinks that, but at the same time, when they get American immigrants coming into their country, they're like, oh yeah, that's great. They welcome them. So I feel like there's a double standard.
Yeah.
There's a double standard, I think.
That's so interesting, and I had an interesting thing where I experienced a lot of Americans that are not necessarily proud of being American.
Absolutely correct.
And you would think that they're super proud, but a lot of them are disappointed at how things are going, which is very interesting to me. Yeah. Because I always remind like Americans, it's like this is still the land of opportunity, and don't underestimate this place. Like, I am more proud sometimes than the Americans I speak with.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, same here. I agree.
So what was the biggest surprise for you? So like you expected certain things, and what was the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise of when you come here as an immigrant,
Yeah.
everything's cheaper.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody's nicer. Everybody's really nice. There's a
Yeah.
thing in America. There's American politeness that is not shallow. It's not shallow. It's not being fake. Everybody thinks Americans are fake
Right.
outside of America.
Yeah.
It's not fakeness. They're just nicer. They're
Yeah.
nicer to each other. It's very common here to see when you walk in the store, especially in Tucson in the beginning where I just moved, and somebody's walking not even near me, and they're like, "Excuse me, I'm sorry." They're so polite, overly polite. Everything's cheap, and I've never seen so much big space. I've never seen anything. Everybody says everything is bigger in America. It's so true. Crazy, crazy true.
Yeah.
Everything is huger in America. It's ginormous here in America. So much bigger. Oh my God. The Target. I went my first time at a super Target. I'm never gonna forget.
You don't see the other end of the store when you walk in.
No. I've never seen a store where you can buy a bicycle, a microwave, food, drugs, like Tylenol, like
Yeah.
ibuprofen, video games, underwear, and everything. It's just
Card
You
games.
you can buy everything
Clothes.
at the same time for cheap.
Yeah.
It's really
glorious.
American. Yeah.
It is. I remember, Jasmine,
Yeah.
when we went to the supermarket alone for the first time, and there was like a buffet or something like that, and there was a green, like marker green looking salad. And we asked the saleswoman, what is it? And she said, marshmallow salad.
Yeah.
That's a
And
really
we
good
were like,
example of American.
I
Of
was
something
like,
surprising.
Is that a joke? Is it a special occasion? What is
can-
going on?
How can marshmallow be a salad? It's not a vegetable.
It's that's very funny. That's true.
On the note
Right.
of like what has surprised you the most, when I moved here, I was not thinking about food as being a life-changing event, and it has been, because food in
Really?
Israel is delicious. It's just delicious.
The Mediterranean diet.
Yeah.
The cucumber is delicious. The lemon, like the normal things that you don't even think about, are delicious.
Yeah.
And when I moved here, I was like, this tomato has no flavor. This apple has no. And I'm not bashing, but it's just so different for me. And like,
Well, because it's a huge country, and if you're in Arizona, probably not a lot of apples grow in Arizona, so they need to
Yeah.
bring them from somewhere else, and then they have to like semi-freeze them, and then they lose all the flavor. So it's just
Also, they have to grow them and make them so they last.
yeah,
And it's a whole
yeah.
it's a whole topic. I agree.
So
I
that
agree.
was, yeah.
Only whole foods, like organic whole food stuff, like fruits and veggies, even come close to
Yeah.
what we're used to,
they do.
flavor wise.
And I remember that we went to a diner for the first time. Was it the Waffle House?
Yeah.
Okay. We
Wow.
went for the first time, like the first week we were here.
Yeah.
Going to the
And-
Waffle House on your first week, that's
There were
not
no-
for the faint of heart.
there
I can
wasn't
tell you
a
that.
lot of options. Let's just say that.
Go big or go home.
I went there drunk after living there for a year and a half. That's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
So I ordered orange juice, and I've never seen this size cup before.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
In Israel, the big size is a 12 ounce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the US, a big size is a 32 ounce.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not even the biggest.
It's not, but
Yeah.
Right. It's
I was
huge.
like, this is orange juice for 2 days. Like,
That's true. That's true.
in my head,
When I
was
saw
like,
people with the Polar Pop cups, I thought the
oh,
same.
yeah.
The cups that they're like 2 gallons.
Yeah. No, it's
Of Coke.
only in America. That's
Only
for
in
sure.
America you can
Yeah.
buy 2 gallons for like $1.
Oh my God.
For $2.
So, moving forward, um, do you miss anything? Well, we're almost talking about it, but you said you don't remember anything from the Ukraine, but do you remember one thing that you miss, or literally it's like, or is it your mom's food? Like, what do you miss?
It's a great question, and actually I think I have a great answer for you.
Okay.
So I don't remember anything, but sometimes I would walk somewhere. Let's say if we're taking a trip, let's say we went to LA, or let's say we went to Denver, Colorado, or we're going somewhere, even in Europe, in Berlin, and I would say, oh my God, I feel like I've been here, but I haven't. And I always tell myself, oh, this must be how it looked where I grew up.
Wow.
So I
That's
have
crazy.
like a ghostly, like deja vu feeling of, it feels like the memories I don't remember. It looks like the memories I don't remember remembering.
Wow.
And it feels like I'm there, but it's only like an illusion. It's like a dream. It's very weird.
So, like, subconsciously, your, like, subconscious know that you're traveling and you get that feeling. You know what I mean?
It can
I
be, it
wonder
doesn't
how-
even have to be, it can be even in
Where
my
you
room.
live.
It can be anywhere where I look and I see something, and it can remind me of like the feeling of, I don't have a memory, but I can remember a feeling of how I felt before we moved. And it's like a very difficult thing to explain, but it's like, if you don't have a memory, well, you can remember a feeling maybe. So it just feels like it's
Wow.
back in the day when
would
I
be-
was a kid.
It would be crazy to go to the Ukraine.
Yeah, it's like a Boards of Canada kind of
Yeah.
situation where, I don't know if our listeners are familiar with Boards of Canada,
Well,
but
they should be.
their music, is really special because you can hear something that can remind you of something that you've never experienced, but you miss.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
It is.
What a crazy thing.
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
pretty crazy.
I
Yes.
get it.
So it happens to me visually, where I see something that reminds me of something that I don't remember, but I miss.
That's really cool, but fucked up as well.
I agree. So those things I miss when
Yeah.
when that happens, I miss that.
That's really cool, Vlad. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Oh yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
but is there anything you miss about Israel?
Oh my God, ew.
I
You
can tell
love
you,
it that much?
I don't miss living in like country. You know, there's like 2 ways of living in a country. There's living your life, but there's like in the city or where you live with your friends and the food and going to the beach. But there's also like the bureaucracy and the laws and how the government is functioning and how much taxes you have to pay and all those things that is living in the country means country
Yeah.
like
Being a
institution wise.
citizen.
Being a citizen, exactly,
Yeah.
institution wise. So I really don't miss living in Israel in that regard, but I really miss going to the beach with friends, eating like street food that we're used to eat.
Yeah.
Like I grew up on street food. It's ironic, I'm Ukrainian, but I grew up on Israeli Sephardic street food, which
Yeah.
I miss every single day.
Same.
And my diet, actually, I gained so much weight since I moved to America because my diet has changed so dramatically
Yeah.
from eating our Sephardic, the Middle Eastern street food is vegetables.
Sorry,
Siri
Siri.
is, yeah.
Siri wants to join
Siri
the
said
conversation.
just the tea. That's what she said. I think. So, Israeli street food is vegetables tahini and hummus, which also is vegetable. Like it's just vegetables. And I've been so used to eating food like that, and I've been I was so skinny before we moved. I gained like 45 pounds.
Wow.
And now I'm busy dropping all those pounds and trying to eat healthy.
Yeah.
But when you move here, at first you're just like so. You're like how do you say, bewitched, bewildered by all the burgers you can have.
Yeah.
For $10.
Well, it's just the options. Like when you go to the supermarket in Israel, there's not like 15 different pies. I don't think there's even one pie.
Not even one.
You know,
There isn't a pie.
no,
There's
not even one pie that you can buy at the supermarket. Not even frozen.
Your options,
Wow.
it's razor thin.
Yeah,
You have like
there's
one.
like a few pastries, like 3 kinds,
It's razor thin.
and that's it.
The
And they're-
variety is razor thin.
Yeah, so it's like the temptation's not there.
No.
Well, then you walk through like 10 bakeries on your way to work.
Well, in Tel Aviv, yeah, that's true. But it's so expensive that you can't afford it.
True.
Or you can afford
Everything-
one little one. Also,
Everything is
the
way more
sizes.
expensive.
And
Yeah.
the size, like,
That's true.
if
It's half. It's literally.
It's a third,
the,
yeah.
The Danish here is half the size of a Danish in Israel.
opposite.
The other way.
The Danish
Yeah.
in Israel's half the size
Okay, thank you guys.
of a Danish here.
But something that must be said. The burgers are exactly the other way around.
What?
So everywhere in the world where I've been, burgers are like nice and big, and in America they're like small. They're super small.
Yeah.
The burgers, the patties are small.
They're thin.
They're
Oh.
They're
thin.
not-
They're small. The burger itself is like the kids' burger in Israel. Here, all the burgers are like the kids' burger.
Really?
American burgers are so small.
I don't eat, like,
Unless you go,
McDonald's. so I don't know.
yeah. Unless you
They
go
are
to
thinner.
like a craft burgery, like a place where that's what they do, and that's the whole restaurant is around that concept. The biggest one you can get, that's the normal size of everywhere else. So it's so weird.
I will say that the Zine burgers in
The Zine burger,
Tucson
yeah.
is so good, and like
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't been in a lot of burger places in New York, but I do miss Zine burgers in
Yeah.
Tucson.
No, they're there. But it's like a specialty burger place. Oh, but it's so good. Yeah.
Anyway,
Everything is bigger except the burgers.
That's so, you would,
Only the burgers are smaller.
you wouldn't see that coming.
No, and the Coke is huge, but the burger is tiny. But it's also cheap, so you get 5 of them.
Yeah.
Or 4 or 2 or 3 or whatever, as hungry as you are. And then that's so American.
Yeah.
Getting like 5 tiny burgers and like 1 huge Coke.
I just want to mention
Yeah.
that to get a McDonald's meal in Israel is about $12.
My meal, I
15.
always go to McDonald's like on a regular. I used to go to McDonald's on a regular in Israel because it's actually good. And it was $20 every time.
$20.
$20.
Really?
Yeah, here it's about half of that for the same amount of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But it's not as good.
People go to McDonald's in Israel as like going out.
Oh yeah,
It's like an event.
It's a luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
the McDonald's
don't
in
miss
Israel-
the McDonald's. I miss other food in Israel.
Oh yeah.
But
I missed. You know what? I missed the Israeli McDonald's because of how good it is.
when,
There's a kid
There's a
yelling in the
the
hallway,
hallway.
and we apologize if you can hear him, or her, or
or
them.
them.
Then-
Before we jump into a fun fact, does anybody have anything to add?
Vlad.
God bless America.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So, out of the 3 countries that you've lived in so far in your life, is America your favorite?
Absolutely. And going back to what you said about not knowing that you're Israeli because
Yeah.
you grew up as an American.
Supposedly, that's what
Supposedly,
I was
your mom
told.
was American, grew up as an American in Israel.
Nobody knew what peanut butter and jelly sandwich was at in an Israeli school. And
Exactly.
Yeah,
You came here and you were like, "Oh, I'm so Israeli. I had
So-
no idea."
yeah.
I didn't know how American I am until I moved to America.
It's true. I had to move
had
to
no
the
idea.
States before Vlad could join because of visa stuff.
Yeah, visa stuff.
When Jasmine and I were here, and Vlad was still in Israel, I would tell him, "You don't know how American you are. When you get here, you're gonna realize how American you are," and it's true.
That's exactly what
That's
happened. I came. I was like, oh my god, I'm so afraid. I'm gonna be different again. I was
Yeah.
afraid of being different again.
Of course.
Being, bullied again for being who I am, for being from a different place. I came and I had the most supportive, like, people supported me. People were like, hey, you're so cool that you're from somewhere else. And I feel completely, entirely American,
That's so cool.
although I have an accent, which I, by the way, didn't know I have, because turns out that when you have an accent, you don't know that until someone tells you, and only then, after a long time, you start hearing it.
Yeah.
And now I can hear my accent. But when I moved here, I couldn't hear my accent. I thought I sound like everybody on TV.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I have a little story, real quick. Whenever I say real quick, you know it's not quick.
That's the best. Those are the best stories.
So, when I moved here, like in the first 6 months, everywhere I would go, and people here are very endearing and interacting, so they ask you, how are you? And then you say, I'm good, how are you? And it sounds like, I am good, how are you? Like, it sounds like...
Jasmine had a heavy accent.
It
Yeah.
sounds like the following question is, where are you from?
Right, always.
Yeah.
In
And
Tucson.
after a little bit, like every day a stranger asking you where are you from, it gets tiring, like, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what I started doing is...
And it's everywhere. It's in the store. It's everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, literally everywhere. So what I started doing is stop talking while I'm running errands. So somebody would say, how are you? And usually I'm like a very nice, talkative person.
Right.
But what I started doing is I told myself, just nod. So now I couldn't just nod because
Wow.
that's not the type of person I am.
Wow.
So I just said, so this lady, I was in the grocery store and she was like, how are you? And I was like, good. And then she said, where are you from?
Oh my God.
And in my head, I'm like, lady, I just said good. How can you hear that I'm from somewhere else? I just
Oh
said
my
good.
God. That's crazy.
I won't forget that because
Wow.
in my head, I was like dying. But in front of her, I'm like, I'm from Israel. La, 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 la.
But the weirdest thing is when I meet somebody that is apparent that he's not American, I want to ask him where he's from, even though I know how annoying it can be because you can be asked that questions like constantly.
What I started doing after, I don't know, a few months, I started saying, I'm from here. I live right there. I'm
Me
from
too.
Yeah.
River and Oracle. Like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm from there. Where are you from? That's what I started doing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, and even in New York, when we moved to New York, I
Yeah.
used to work as a server, and as a server, you get a lot of people ask you where you're from, regardless of if you live in New York, just because it's a thing.
Yeah.
They ask you, maybe because they're from somewhere else and they're curious about you. So it's a different mechanism of asking you where you're from. But when they do, I tell them, oh, I'm from Tucson, and they're like, no, but where are you from? Where are you from? And I'm like, from Tucson.
Wow.
And they're like, no, but before that. And I'm like, from Israel.
Wow.
And they're like, no, but before your name is Vladimir.
Yeah.
Vladimir is not a very Israeli name. That's what they say. Vladimir is not a very Israeli
That's
name.
so rude.
But
And
they
then I
know.
say,
Man.
oh yeah, my parents, we immigrated from Ukraine. And then they're like, oh,
But
now it
that's
makes
not
sense.
nice though.
I
That's
know.
rude because
they
it's
know.
like,
People do it all the time.
excuse you, are you here to dine or are you here to talk about my life?
Everybody does. I got used to it.
Yeah.
It's actually worse in Israel. It's better here. I feel like,
But in Israel, it's a thing because, like, everybody, because it's a country that's 70 years old, everybody is literally from somewhere.
Everybody.
Nobody, like, if obviously people are born there, but, like, their parents or their grandparents, like,
True.
Most people are not from Israel originally. Their roots are from somewhere else.
True, true, true.
I
A lot of
used
people that
to-
built the country are from Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to get asked in Israel, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from here. And they're like, no, but where were you born? And I'm like, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, you talk weird.
Oh, that's a different thing. That's a Jasmine.
Oh my god.
Jasmine event.
No, but people are like really.
Yeah, but it's tempting. I sin. Like I do the same. I
You do
see
the
somebody
same.
and I'm like, I want to know where they're.
And they
I
tell
don't
you,
ask
and
it.
then you tell them, no, but where are you
No,
from?
I never.
from?
No. I never do that.
I
No.
don't ask.
If I ask, which I don't always, I usually like hold myself. But sometimes I'm, maybe I'm curious, and it wouldn't be in like somebody's job. Like if I had a server, I would never ask them where are you from.
Right, and if they tell you, you wouldn't say.
Yeah.
But where are you from?
No.
From
But if
originally?
let's say somebody new comes to work
Right.
and they have an accent, so I'm curious, and
That's
they're a
true,
colleague, you want to get to know them, so I would ask where
Of
you
course.
from. But I wouldn't be like, no, before that, or your parents, or your grandparents, or your ancestors, have you done a DNA test? Did you check if you're like, no, of course not.
Can I tell you a trick?
Yeah.
Instead of asking them where you're from, you know what I do?
What
I
do you
tell them where I'm from.
Yeah.
That's
And
so
then
cool.
they tell me where they from.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what's up? How are you? And they're like, I'm good. And I'm like, cool. And like I get the
I think
conversation
subconsciously
started.
I do the same.
Yeah. I
think
get
so.
the conversation started and then I'm like, yeah, I'm from Israel. So like we do
Right.
it this way in Israel.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, oh, cool. I'm from Germany, blah, blah, blah. And it just,
Yeah.
There
One
you go.
time somebody asked me, what are you?
Yeah.
were you
that's-
like, I'm a mammal or what did you say?
What are you?
I am a woman, okay?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, what are you? Fun fact, animals are immigrants.
What?
Oh my God.
I gotta
How
hear an
long were you
explanation.
holding that
I
in?
gotta hear the info on that.
Well, we were just talking about how animals immigrate in their lifetime. A lot
They
of
migrate, yeah.
That was a Jasmine. That was a Jasmine.
Well, they migrate, but it's the same word.
It's the same word.
It's immigrant and migrate. Immigrants migrate.
True.
No, it's what he's trying to say is grammatically you say animals migrate.
Yeah.
Correct, exactly.
I'm glad
No, but
the non-American
I think it's
is
funny.
teaching us grammar.
It's the right
Yeah.
way to say it is the funny way to say it. I really believe in
Yeah,
it.
well, think
So
about
if you
it.
say the animals are immigrants, that's funny, and that's the right way.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
what
the
I wrote
bird,
here.
the birds are, they leave Europe
True.
and go to Africa and back every year.
It's still unbelievable to me.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
This in how children are born.
nice.
It's unbelievable to me how birds go around the globe.
Children are
For-
immigrants too because their real home is within the mom's
Oh my
belly.
god, this is the
That's
craziest
far.
thing in
That's
the world.
taking it far. But I did want to say something that, in connection to what Vlad was saying about like, if you have an American immigrant, like if Americans immigrate, everybody's like okay with it and they're fine.
Oh, they love them.
Yeah.
They're the best.
And maybe people don't know this, but in Israel, we like grew up on American media,
Nobody knows that.
TV shows,
Yeah.
movies. Like Michael Jordan
Oh,
was
yeah.
a
It was
hero
my childhood hero.
in the
I
90s.
had like an album with like stickers and
Yeah.
like cards. Yeah.
So we grow up idolizing the United States. So
Every single person I met in the United States didn't, and we talked about it, did not know that.
yeah, that's
don't-
why I wanted to mention it because I know people like
Yeah.
have asked me, "Oh, do you know who Michael Jackson is?"
Yeah, a lot. It happens a lot. It happens all the time.
And yeah, we grow up watching Friends and
American TV,
Seinfeld
yeah.
and all
Movies.
the kids shows, all the movies, all the music, Britney Spears, Michael Jackson. So, and that's why we wanted, you idolize it as a kid, so of course you're going to want to go there, and especially if you have a passport.
Americans think, they always say, we're the best, but they don't know that people around the world grow up on American pop culture, and
Yeah.
they're so surprised when you come to America and you say, "Oh, I know everything Mariah Carey. I know everything Britney Spears.
Yeah.
I know everything Justin Timberlake. I know those things by heart. I know all the movies, all the Fast and Furious, whatever."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Really? Did you have that there?" And we're like, "Of course we had that there.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
American pop culture. It's the big.
That's what we grew up on.
Yeah.
MTV was like my favorite channel. That's British, but in a lot. No, never mind. So
No,
I think.
but yeah, I remember watching MTV when they were shooting it from Times Square.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was a
my
great
God.
show. I forgot the name of the show, but
There's the Top of the Pops or something.
Yeah.
Something like that. The pop news.
yeah.
I would used to watch the red carpet. Like, I don't watch it as much anymore, but
The
as
Oscars.
yeah, I would watch, but not even the Oscars, just the red
Oh, just
carpet.
the red carpet. Gotcha.
Like,
yeah,
Gotcha.
on
all the stars going
E-News.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
E-News, exactly. Jackie started researching
Yeah.
our history as a family. And it's really cool. There's a lot of things I didn't know. Jackie, please share.
Okay, yeah. So, a lot of time on my hands lately. I have been utilizing it to do some research.
Oh my God.
Let's start on our mom's side, the American side.
Sure.
Our mom, her grandparents are from Galicia, which is modern day kind of like Eastern Europe, what you would call, what people refer to when they say Ashkenazi Jewish. That's where they came from, is what today is Romania, Ukraine, sometimes Russia even.
But yeah, Poland and Ukraine.
Poland, for sure.
Yeah.
So both of our grandmother's parents came from there, and actually probably their ancestors were pretty close to each other, but they met in New York, in America. Our great-grandfather Herman actually lost his dad and brother to the Spanish flu in New York, which is crazy because 100 years later, here we are in New York through the pandemic, the second pandemic.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and our dad's grandfather was Joaquin Suarez. He was born on the shore of Spain, on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, and when he was 17, which was about 1910, 1911, he came to New York also.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and Joaquin, throughout his life, moved until eventually he was in California. So he moved around the U.S. In the meantime, met his wife, Mamie, who was just an American white lady.
Good old white lady.
Yeah. And then they got married, had kids. Our grandfather Jack, who I'm named after, and yeah, it's cool. He started in New York and moved his way west.
So cool.
Yeah. So we, on our mom's side, are part Spanish, part Jewish Ashkenazi, Eastern European pretty much, and part white American, which is...
That I'm very surprised about, and more to come on that because we're doing more research.
Yeah. And on our dad's side, his parents migrated to Israel from Morocco. And he was their first child that was born in Israel, actually. He has 3 older siblings that were all born in Morocco. They migrated through France, so they had to go to France first and then to Israel, and his mom was pregnant with him, and he was born 2 months early, and he thinks it was because of the rocking of the boat, because they had to come, they didn't fly. They came in, I don't remember the year, 57.
Wow.
And they
In a
came with
boat.
boat, and he thinks that he was born early because of the movement of the boat.
Wow.
And yeah.
Crazy. And he's basically first generation Moroccan in Israel.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So we have Moroccan, Spanish, Ashkenazi Jewish, and a little bit American, white American.
And Sephardic Jew because he's from Morocco, which is
right.
considered Sephardic Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your guys' pattern is
Yeah, and
it came around.
it came around because our mom, who grew up in L.A., California, moved to Israel, and we moved back to the U.S. to New York, where our grandparents originated. I mean,
Which is-
they
yeah.
not originated, but they all came to New York when they migrated to the U.S., and now we're here.
It's full circle.
Yeah,
So it's New York. So it was Eastern Europe, then New York, then California, then Israel, then New York again.
right. And there's also Spain in there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I just meant.
Yeah. It is
That's crazy.
full circle for sure. Yeah.
I love it.
We actually have some silverware, or what was that? Candle holders. For,
Yeah,
for
we have,
Shabbat that were purchased in New York, traveled throughout the whole world, and came back, and they're with us in New York again after
Yeah.
100 years.
Yeah. They belong to our
Great-grandmother.
great grandmother, and yeah.
I love that.
And we still
I
light
love it.
candles every Friday for Shabbat. We light candles in those candle holders.
Yeah, I know it's really very touching,
Powerful.
very powerful.
Very powerful.
So we are our family migrated a lot.
We're immigrants.
We're
No.
immigrant through and through. Yeah.
just girls being girls.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Vlad, for joining us today and
Yeah.
telling us your story. We really appreciate it.
It's my
Yeah.
pleasure. It's been very, very, very fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys. Thank you.
It was fun.
you're
We had a
awesome.
fun conversation, and
Yeah.
we learned. I even learned things about my own husband.
Wow.
Yes, honey. Every day is a new day in marriage. And we will see.
In a good marriage, yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys on the next episode, part 3. We won't tell what it is until it comes out.
Yay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please follow us on Instagram at chutzpah_time. That's CHUTZPAH_time, where we post updates and reminders so you don't miss any of our episodes or shenanigans. We also are on Facebook and YouTube at Chutzpah Time Podcast and on Twitter, Chutzpah Time. Thank you again and goodbye.